Hello Animorphs fans and welcome back to the Animorphs Reviews YouTube channel. We're doing another podcast watch and this is a very special one because this is Fanimorphs, the Dork Bajir Chronicles. A podcast that I actually appeared on in a couple of episodes. I remember one of them was 28, I can't remember what the other one was, but it was a few years ago now. But I had great fun, they were a great podcast and I do believe they got to the end of the series, if I'm not mistaken. I believe they did. But anyway, they did book 37, The Weakness. And we are on an adventure to find somebody who likes this book. I don't remember if Fanimorphs did or not, so we will find out. What am I drinking today? I'm drinking Fest beer. And I bought a whopping great festival glass. It's as big as my head. So I'm going to be drinking that. And if we get the special forfeit, if a cinnamon bun is mentioned, I have to add this to the list of drinks that I drink tonight, which is pineapple milkshake IPA. Oh, not good. So I hope that doesn't happen. Anyway, forfeits for today. Modern political issues, 2 fingers. Character traits, 1 finger. TV show criticism, 4 fingers. 90s reference, 3 fingers. Movie talk, 2 fingers. Off mention, 1 finger. Something wrong, 2 fingers. Naughty talk, 2 fingers. Podcast name, 1 finger. And of course, the new forfeit, if they praise this book, then it's 1 finger drink. So we'll see what happens. It'll be good to hear Fanimorphs again after quite a few years. So let's see what they have to say about book 37, The Weakness. Let's go. I'll remember this. I'll remember this intro.
3 friends, one amazing series of YA novels, an insatiable thirst to relive the glory that is K.A. Applegate's literary masterpiece. This is
Fanimorphs,
the Dork Bajir Chronicles.
Yeah. And that's TV
Hello, and welcome to the Dork.
It is podcast name mentioned. Well, fingers don't really count here. I just sip.
Bajir Chronicles, a podcast where we read through the Animorphs series 1 book at a time and talk about it every week. Today we'll be talking about Animorphs number 37, The Weakness.
The Weakness.
My name is Mikhail, the host.
I'm Tessa, the expert.
And I'm Brayden, the expert, but on feet.
I'll remember these antics. There's always good banter with this
I
lot.
thought you were going to say a different podcast. Like you're cheating on us.
Brayden's actually really smart, just has nothing to do with anything we talk about.
Basically, like that Republican guy who ran for Senate, who was like a brilliant or ran for president, who was like a brilliant brain surgeon
Ben
who
Carson.
literally invented a type of brain surgery, but believed that the pyramids were for storing grain.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
You can be smart in
Political.
one area, and that's it.
Storing grain. That's interesting. Hold on. Did they... it's an interesting question. Did they store grain in the pyramids? Fact check. Oh, but it's from The Guardian. Never trust The Guardian. Fucking horrible rag. Let's see that something that... History Matters. That should be a more reliable source. History Matters. Pyramids or granaries. The genesis of... See, I want it so that it's not tied to a politician, because that's when you get bias creeping in. I want something from... Oh, by the way, that was the brackets game that I did recently. I want something that was before, so that it's not liable to any sort of bias. Bias. Science alert. Here's how scientists know the pyramids were built to store pharaohs, not grain. Plenty to talk right now about is again, it takes place after the Ben Carson thing. See, this is the problem with researching, especially when it comes to politics, because anything after something is said is often, like, adjusted. So it looks like this is from November 2015 when this happened, so let's find something before 2015. Everything's from 2015. This is why it's such a freaking minefield because this is... let's go on Wikipedia. I don't know why I'm going on this tangent. It just intrigued me. Pyramid. Find... No, nothing on there. Oh, whatever. I'll just accept what they say.
Politics. Uh-oh, politics.
Should we do some...
Ooh, yeah.
Is it fan mail?
Yeah.
Fanimail. That's
First
what it
up,
is.
we got a fan mail from Matthew James Ferrantino to our Facebook page. He talks about the Animorphs as James Bond characters. Jake would be Q. Marco would be Goldfinger. I almost called him Golden Finger. Like that's like Littlefinger, but for gold? I don't know. Rachel would be Octopussy. Tobias would be Bond. James Bond. Axe would be Dr.
Bollocks.
No. And Cassie would be, I don't know, somebody.
Why would Tobias be James Bond? That's
And
silly.
unfortunately,
You're silly. You're
I
wrong.
don't know enough about James Bond to stand up for my main girl. So
Probably the one black Bond girl. Let's be honest here.
Halle Berry?
Oh, yeah, I guess there was also Halle Berry. But like one back in the 70s with the fucking sharp-ass hair and the choke me out arms.
Cool. I don't know enough about Bond, unfortunately.
Oh, and the Dr. No joke is because of book 8, where Axe could only say yes and no, and he ended up telling Marco's dad that his name was No, because he just went yes, no,
Oh, right.
to any of the questions that were asked.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's some great stuff. Second piece of fan mail comes in hot, like 2 days ago on Instagram from @Sequins and Sequoias, who called us out on our TV show episodes. They say, hey, so I just started listening to your podcast and the TV show episodes. You keep saying that the actor who plays Marco is clearly a Canadian from rural Alberta, but that actor is actually the only one of the 5 kids who is from the U.S. So,
I mean, I appreciate corrections.
No, I'm all right, thank you.
Let's
you know what? I do appreciate corrections. I will admit I'm not the biggest expert, but I am the biggest expert on this podcast.
Okay. I feel like I haven't done a summary in like years.
Forever.
Because we did the TV show episodes where Jared, because he's a diva, that's part of his contract, he has to do all the summaries. So.
The last summary you did was for book 35, which
Oh, wow.
was all the way back in April.
Yeah. The TV shows at times.
While they're doing the fan mail, I'm actually looking more in depth on this grain thing, and there seems to be it's a lot of etymology reasons behind it, so language issues. So they were called pyramids from the grain which the king collected there, and that's a quote from Stephen of Byzantium. But there's controversy as to whether pyramis, which is a derivation from which language? It's a different language, but the Egyptian language might be different in what it refers to. So, again, it's one of these things that if it weren't delved in a political issue, it might be easier to find an answer, but whatever. I should pay attention more to the show. I'm just waiting to get past my man. Sorry for the delay.
Okay, let's get started then, because this one, I don't know, it's actually a pretty short book. I know the length is not the same on everyone's like e-readers, but typically an Animorph book is about 90 to 91 pages on my e-reader, and this one was 78. That's a lot shorter.
I mean, it's just because the story was so good and tight. They needed less pages to tell it.
And half of this was super filler anyways, so yeah.
Just as a last piece. So, around 1291, artists included the image of grain being stored in the pyramids as part of the Joseph cycle that adorns the mosaics in the atrium of St. Mark's Basilica in Venice. So there are depictions of grain being stored in pyramids from the 13th century, so whatever. Why am I interested in this? I don't know. Probably tired. Right, Fanimorphs. I'm going to take that down now and just concentrate on you. Sorry. When I grab hold of something, I don't let go very easily.
Get into it.
Yeah. So the book starts, and so it's a Rachel book. We find out right at the beginning that Jake is on vacation. It almost seemed like it was going to be a goof for a second, and it totally wasn't. Jake is not here. We can probably assume that he's somewhere without a phone, and there's no cell phones yet. So
Yep.
for all intents and purposes, Jake is not in this book.
It was some kind of visiting family that's not also Rachel's family, I think.
But it's also the family that lives in the mountains in a shack.
That's the beginning of a creepy pasta right there.
So the first piece of plot we get is that Tobias has found yet again where Visser 3, for some reason, is eating grass. Like his Andalite body is eating grass.
Yeah, they've got to feed his Andalite body.
Yeah, cool. Like our astronauts. Yeah. Astronauts have food in Earth technology. You don't. Okay, fucking whatever.
It's
It's a fair point, and I think that's what Tess is about to say.
okay. The Yerks don't have paper. They're not going to be able
Oh,
to know
no.
how to grow grass. Like,
That
come
was
on.
not canon. That was not canon.
Does make you wonder as well. Now, to be fair, you're only feeding one individual. But that makes it even sillier, because then if you're feeding one person, then surely there's going to be some Yerks delegated somewhere just say, go get some fresh grass, bring it back up. Rather than having travelled down to Earth to a vulnerable spot. Yeah, it's silly. It is very silly.
Jeez.
It's basically canon.
So they decide, of course, like last time, we're gonna try to fucking murk this guy. Well, I don't know if they actually say kill, but they definitely say quote unquote get him.
Yeah.
The way to do that,
Take 'em out.
Yeah, I don't totally understand why they chose Cheetah as their morph. They're like, we need speed, we need to get in and out. And it's like, cheetahs are like sprinters though, and you're gonna be in the middle of the woods. Anyways, they do that thing where they all get the cheetah morph, but we don't see it happening, which is
Yeah.
like, how
They
did
do that a lot
do
more
that?
lately.
That's something I didn't consider, and a very good point. They must have just gone to the gardens and all stepped into the enclosure one by one, and that's that.
Yeah, but for some things it makes sense. Like a whale, it's like, yeah, or a dolphin, it's like, yeah, okay. A fucking cheetah, come on.
The thing is, though, they did show us them touching the whale and the dolphin. And, that's a cool moment when they have to, in book 16, where Jake has to sneak into the zoo to get up on a rhino so that he could go break into, Bill Gates' house.
I love those hijinks. I want to see them. I don't want to skip over them.
It's another problem with the Animorphs series where sometimes they just wanted a plot to happen, so they just made it happen regardless of any story that is needed for it to happen. So, yeah, acquiring a cheetah morph. They thought, oh, we'll have them be a cheetah. They've got the morph. They've just believe us, they've got the morph. Never mind the difficulties it would require to acquire the cheetah.
Also, this book could have used more filler.
This book, they needed to let you know that there were two hot body models or instructors at the World Health, and they needed you to know.
Wait, whoa, you're getting ahead of yourself.
Getting too ahead.
You're
Yeah, I
creating
was going to say, where's this coming?
filler for our episode almost in a meta sense.
Yeah.
Okay. So they get to blah blah blah. There's a little travel describing morphs for 5 pages. Who cares? I skip that stuff now when they describe them morphing. I don't know. I get it.
I did when I was a kid rereading it, but I'm trying to read it now just because they are described differently. And as we get into the later books, sometimes they'll sneak bits of actual scene work into the description of the Yerks and what Yerks
My
are.
jaw distended. My legs became long and lanky. 9/11 was an inside job.
One thing I will say, though, sometimes it was worth reading the morphing sequences because they were actually really well written. One that stands out in particular is the Dragonfly morph in book 21. probably one of the best morphing sequences of the series.
Like there's little treats hidden in there.
Yeah.
Come on, give me a
My
forfeit,
legs
Fanimorphs.
melted like steel
You
beams
bastards.
couldn't with jet fuel.
I want a drink from my
My
fest glass.
esophagus disintegrated just like a whole plane could never do.
So they hit Visser 3 while he's eating, as expected. They actually, it seems like it's going to work for a second. Obviously, there's Hork-Bajir there, but the cheetah are faster than all these things. But they get foiled by
Something even faster.
what I've dubbed as the Garbage Tron. I think it's actually Garatron.
I think it's actually Garatron.
All you guys need to know as listeners is that it's basically a B-rate Sonic that looks like an Andalite.
They keep on describing
Basically.
it as a blue blur.
Yep.
Because it moves so fast. But one quick thing, these kids were already getting their asses handed to them by the Hork-Bajir a little bit. And then they were like, let's escape. And then the big fast Sonic Man came in to totally wreck their shit. Like you said earlier, why did you choose Cheetah? Their endurance is a fart.
Well, I think the idea was like they would all hit Visser and then drag him away. And to be fair, like the Visser probably wouldn't want the Hork-Bajir like firing lasers while he's right there.
Yeah, that makes sense.
There's something to it, but I feel like a mix of morphs would have made more sense. Anyways, whatever. We can talk about that later. But
To be fair to the book, they did reason it to some degree by saying in and out, we're going to be as quick as possible. How are we going to be as quick as possible? And be deadly. Cheetah. So that was the plan. It was a stupid plan, but at least they had some logical reason behind it. To a degree.
so this guy, this Garatron thing that looks like an Andalite, except if the tail blade had no blade, just as a tail.
He does have a
And
tail blade.
okay, wait. The head is shaped like a bicycle helmet.
That was the worst.
Ridiculous.
Specifically, a custom bicycle helmet.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was thinking it was the Black & Decker for, I don't know any helmet brands, but so this guy, we find out as we, so obviously he like basically hands it to the Animorphs, and we see a conversation in public thought speak as the Animorphs are running away that this guy
In public
is
thought speak,
known
of
as
course.
Inspector. I think he's got a name. I didn't really remember it.
No, he doesn't
But,
have a name, it's just the
he's
Inspector.
A prospective member of the Council of 13. So basically, I don't know, commander that will soon become a general kind of thing. He also says that the Garatrons are like a new race that the Yeerks are. There's a lot of stuff with the Garatrons that does not matter at all, but is teased so much that it's just enough to be irritating. Anyways,
agree.
the Animorphs deduce from the conversation that the Inspector is there to like report back on why Visser 3 is fucking up the Earth invasion so bad, or at least to see what's going on, essentially. So the Animorphs sends Jake. Have to figure out something to do. Well, I shouldn't say have to. They decide to. They definitely don't have to do any of this.
Especially because Jake is only gone for like 3 days.
Yeah.
Literally like 3 days.
And honestly, okay, we'll get into it later, but they might have been better off doing nothing. But anyways.
Yeah.
Okay, so the inspector is checking out,
Yeah.
blah, blah, blah. So what they decide...
That's a fair point. I'm going to pause here because it feels like I'm just listening. I'm trying to listen out for forfeits and points of contention, but it's just a general summary with a little bit of humour thrown in, which is always good. But if the Animorphs didn't do anything, what would the Inspector think of Visser 3? Well, he knows that there's Andalite bandits. So if the Visser doesn't find them and does nothing about it, then that's a negative, surely. So that's something I didn't think about. Because the Animorphs, by taking on this mission, actually give the Visser an opportunity to capture them and prove that he's doing a good job. Whereas if they just sat back and did nothing and the Visser's just scrambling around aimlessly, then that's going to look like shit for the Inspector. So that's a fair point.
to do is
Hey,
make him
guys,
look bad.
guys,
Now, for God's sake, Fanimorphs, give me a reason to drink!
Yes.
nobody died.
Or Turlu. 1,000,000,000,000,000,000 bazillion non-push-ups. Let's figure that out.
Okay.
Except for a lot of people died.
So they decide they need to discredit the Visser, like, by, well, they don't decide how yet, because there's a long conversation about who should be the leader while Jake is gone, which is a very, like, 13-year-old kind of conversation.
Jake should have
Like,
appointed a deputy.
no, let's not acknowledge all of our individual skills and work as a democracy. Let's arbitrarily pick a leader who has to be blindly followed. Anyways,
That was the thing. That was a.
Mikhail, bringing democracy into a guerrilla warfare, into a guerrilla force, it doesn't. Listen to yourself.
okay.
Except for a lot of people died.
So they decide they need to discredit the Visser, like, by, well, they don't decide how yet, because there's a long conversation about who should be the leader while Jake is gone, which is a very, like, 13-year-old kind of conversation. It's like, no, let's not acknowledge all of our individual skills and work as a democracy. Let's arbitrarily pick a leader.
No, you're wrong, Mikhail. Which means I'm going to drink 2 fingers, and then I'm going to drink another finger because I'm actually going to give the book some praise. Who the fuck would have seen this coming? It's not a 13-year-old discussion to decide who's going to be the leader when the actual leader is out of commission, essentially. That's a very grown-up conversation to have. That's the opposite of a childish conversation. The childish conversation would be, let's all just make it a democracy. Let's all just vote on everything we do. Because then you'll get fucking nothing done. Name a military ever in history that hasn't had some form of leadership. So, something wrong, 2 fingers. And here's me praising the book. It was a discussion that needed to happen, and if it didn't happen, that would have been a negative, which I suppose isn't even a positive for the book. It's just a neutral point. But I'm going to say it's a positive anyway, because I'm defending it in some way, which, yeah, is sort of like a positive. So let's carry on.
Who has to be blindly followed.
The thing that I
Anyways,
will say, though, against book 37, not so much against book 37 again, it's more against Jake. You should always have a second in command. Even if they don't do anything. Just in case this sort of thing happens and you're out of commission, the second command instantly steps in and knows that they're in charge. That's what you need to do. And he didn't do that, which I faulted him for when I did my review. He never appointed a second in command.
That was the thing. That was the craziest thing.
Drink,
Is how they were
everyone.
like, pick the leader, and then no matter what, we have to do what the leader says. Like,
It's like, not even Jake says that.
nobody even treats Jake like that. Like, what are you talking about?
So, Marco, it basically...
Now, yes, that is a fair point. That is a fair point, that you don't just do everything that they say. There's obviously going to be some limits, and that depends on what sort of thing you're doing.
It comes down to Marco and Rachel, and Marco's like, I could do it. And she's like, nah, my plan is to attack quickly. Could you do that? He's like, I could do other plans. She's like, no, but could you do mine? He's like, well, what about... no, but could you do mine, though?
And then Cassie, being Cassie, is like, let's put it to a vote. And Marco's like, yeah, Rachel has her best friend and her boyfriend here. I'm not going to put it to a vote. Rachel, you can have it.
Yeah,
Like-
exactly. It's
Stupid.
It's the worst.
Yeah, I agree
Anyways,
totally. It's freaking
So
awful.
we're just to assume for the rest of the book that Rachel is the leader, in quotes. They decide to hit the Yerks at a bunch of known Yerk businesses and places of work and make it look like Visser 3 is like constantly out of control. So the inspector will report back. Bad stuff. Then we get maybe half the book is just descriptions of these attacks. Like, the first one is
Basically,
the TV station. Actually, the only one that's like actually really relevant is the TV station because, blah blah blah. They go in, they do battle morphs from the beginning. There's some arguments over like whether or not they should do stealth.
Yeah. And Rachel's like, no stealth. Let's just go. So they go, and they don't know what's in there. And there's
I'm going to call that a character trait forfeit for Rachel's impulsiveness. 1 finger. Drink. Except if your name is Medibollocks, then you will actually go down to wherever it's... Go to court or whatever and have your name legally changed to Medibollocks. And if you can't do that, then you drink 2 fingers rather than just the usual 1.
like a bunch of stuff that would have been really useful to know about.
Yeah, so there's a tour by some. So, and to be clear, all these businesses are like, it's assumed they're run 100% by Yerks, basically.
Yes. That they have figured out the Animorphs outside of book time, what we would call in D&D downtime, have been figured out to be controllers.
Yeah. So the first place they go is this TV station where they fuck shit up pretty bad. Axe knocks down the signal even for the station. But there's a tour happening, like a guided tour, and there's an old man on the tour, and it looks like he's like dying, not from being slashed up or like knocked over
Just
by
freaking
equipment,
keels
but
over,
just
doesn't
from
he?
like fear, essentially, because of these like giant grizzly bear and wolf and shit in this TV studio.
Also, the fact that he sees a literal alien, because for every single one of these hits, Axe is in his Andalite form.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, there's a lot to say about like why people have heart attacks and whether or not this could cause one, and I don't know. Anyways,
Yeah, that's fair.
What will finally give me a heart attack and end me on this world will be seeing somebody who unironically likes this book. And by likes, I mean says, it's a well-written, good book, and it adds nicely to the Animorphs plot. I will keel over and die. Like, there. Also, I will have a heart attack and die when I see a competent Honda Jazz driver. It won't happen. It just doesn't happen.
Maybe it was because of the grizzly bear.
it does not come up at all that.
Fuck off. Drink everyone to to the idea of imprisoning all Honda Jazz drivers and having all their shins surgically removed so that they can't reach the pedals of their cars. Drink.
That he's like showcasing his alien body, which is another hit to this book. It's too bad because it's written by what's her name?
Elise Smith. Or Elise
Elise
Donner.
Smith, who also wrote number 30, which I really liked.
Oh.
Wait, no, is it 30? Yeah, 30. The Reunion?
The
one
Reunion,
where,
yeah, that's the Marco book with his mom. Wow, okay, so this one just took like a huge... Like, 30 was a solid book, and this one was like a great big dump.
Yep, it's because she got married and she was in the honeymoon period and she was probably busy thinking about other things while writing this book.
Yeah, this is pretty bad. The TV station is also where we find out that where people are like, hey, the Animorphs are like, hey, man, I think we like might have killed that old man. Rachel's like, has a second where she's like, oh, that's probably bad. But then she's like, no, fuck it. This is war. And just, I don't know. We'll talk about it later. But the inner conflict stuff is really shitty.
Yeah.
So the next hit is the Yerk bookstore, where, again, they just trash it. Marco does, like, he's doing something where it's like, look it up in this encyclopedia. And then he, like, scares the shit out of this kid. That seemed like they glossed over that, but it was actually like pretty terrible.
Yeah.
But hey,
the next one,
no,
By the way, let's sort of talk about Marco making a joke there. That's one finger for character trait.
nobody
Drink everyone.
died.
yeah. The next hit is Mrs. Chapman's, or she's the co-owner of a beauty salon, which has never come up before, but they wreck the shit out of that one. Then they ruin a sports store, like a Sport Check essentially, that's run by a known controller, a bank, which is also run by a known controller. And then, if I'm not mistaken, they're just like, hey, is that Chapman walking into a cigar shop? Let's trash the cigar shop.
That's kind of what it felt like.
I don't
and
even
it's
remember
like,
that
wait,
bit.
Is the cigar shop run by a controller, or is it just because Chapman's in there? Like, was this just like an innocent dude? You just trashed his store?
Hey, nobody died. Also, I guess Chapman smokes. Like, apparently he just sits around.
I don't remember that because this would have been relevant to my Chapman analysis. By the way, I will be doing addendums to videos if I miss something out. So if I did miss this out, I might add it as an addendum.
his house doing nothing, not even helping his own daughter with her homework, and then also just lights up a fatty. Like, when the fuck does he do that?
I mean, cigars. I guess I don't know. Whatever.
You can light a cigar while you're staring at the wall and enjoy it just fine.
Yeah, and like later, it'll make your food taste good better at dinner, and he'll be like, "You're such a good cook." You're in the TV show where he's like, "This food is excellent," or something like
This
that.
food is completely adequate. Yeah, it's something really
Oh,
stupid.
yeah, totally adequate. What a compliment. Anyways, they then knock over. I think they're in a mall actually at first, because there's a lot of businesses that get knocked over like right away.
It might be like a strip mall, because I don't think they would go, because they thought about going into the actual mall and decided against it because of too many pedestrians.
Right. So then they go to Fred's Fitness, a gym. They fuck that up. Kinko's. And then they go to a law firm, and they go to, I guess, a courthouse where they fuck up the desk of Judge. Wait for it, Judge Forensic.
I put that in my notes. Judge Forensic.
Her name is Sally
I don't remember that at all.
Forensic.
But it's spelled with a
This
K,
book, man.
which I would like to point out makes this a what's it called when you mix up all the letters and make it into a similar another word?
Anagram.
And makes this an anagram of foreskin.
Oh yeah, it totally does.
Right, that's naughty talk. 2 fingers, drink everyone.
Okay, so next is Phil's Hardware, which I guess Phil runs it. That comes up later in a really weird, random way, but so they fuck up Phil's Hardware. Okay. At the near the very end of the attacks, they catch a news feed, like just in a shop window or something, and they're like, "Hey, guess what? Guess what? Guess what? The old man died. The old man with the heart attack died at the TV station at the beginning." And here I thought nobody died.
He was on vacation visiting his grandson, and he died.
Later on, they're like, "Listen, there's a lot of reasons you can have a heart attack."
Well, and also, like,
fucking
the old man
stupid.
had a lot of heart problems. He was very feeble. Like, his own daughter is there saying, "Oh, he was gonna go any day now." Like,
Yeah, it's like, well,
I'm sure it was his son. I'm sure it was his son. Are you going to correct yourself?
wow, that's a fucked up thing to say about like a close family member. Like, yeah, he
It's
was
like-
on death's door.
it's like they tried to make it so that Rachel would have a consequence, and then they were like, "Ooh, too dark. Let's make it so that nobody really cares about this old man
Yeah.
that much." So it's
I'm pretty sure it was a son, which counts as something wrong. And if I'm wrong in saying it's a something wrong, then I'll drink 2 fingers in the next episode. I'm sure Medi Bollocks will tell me off about it. But yeah, I'm pretty sure it was maybe grandson, I believe. I believe it's a something wrong, so I'm going to drink to that. But yeah, everything they're saying is spot on, apart from the bits I point out. But yeah, what they're talking about now, that they are spot on. I do love these guys. They are awesome.
fine.
Maybe he shouldn't
2
have been like
fingers.
flying to visit his fucking grandson with
Well-
heart conditions.
Nobody dies.
Nobody important dies.
Also, okay, when they're doing the, like, when they see the news feed, it's in, like, as they're passing, like, a Radio Shack or whatever, and the TVs are pressed against the window. And before that, Rachel is, like, basically skipping down the street because she's so happy there's so much mayhem. There's so many police cruisers out and about. People are closing up shops early, and everybody is, like, huddled and looks scared. And she yells boo at 2 guys in suits right before this. Like, she is so high on the violence. It's so fucked up.
I'm gonna say that's a character trait for Impulsive
in this
this
book.
drink.
We should definitely talk about that once the summary is all wrapped up. So the last hit that we're going to do is on the new community center that the Yerks built. This is the same community center where Tobias got held and tortured in 33? Yeah,
Yes.
33.
33.
Yes.
A shit book, by the way, just so you know. Just so you know.
So blah, blah, blah. They talk about
That book was a proper Honda Jazz, that one. Yeah.
before the community center. I think they're like hiding in bushes, actually. But they're in Morph, I think. Yeah, they're in Morph, so it's all thought speak. Which is still hilarious because they're like a gorilla standing next to a bear.
No, I think they're in their bird morph because they flew to the community center.
Oh, yeah. Actually, that makes way more sense. Yeah, you're right. So this is like a big character moment for Rachel because everyone's like, hey, maybe we should like go check it out and see what's happening because there's like a meeting happening right now. Like maybe we should just go see, like go and fly morph, come back out, and then attack with battle morphs afterwards. And Rachel's like, no. Marco, he's like, well, I mean, like, it seems like no. Well, like,
No.
you know, it wouldn't hurt, no. And then when they're starting to really disagree with her, she's like, no one says no to Jake. I challenged. Well, she says I challenged. Well, they say no to Jake all the time.
All the time, especially when he has a bad idea, like going in as a polar bear.
Or tries to tell a joke.
Or tries to tell a joke. That's the biggest one.
Well, I'm trying to think of times they did say no to Jake. I know that they did, but I'm trying to think of specific times. Book 31 is when I believe Marco tells Jake, you stay out of this. You basically, tells him no. Stop this. So yeah, they do tell Jake no. And not too long ago.
So anyways, yeah.
Again, it's just a poorly written book.
Exactly. So Rachel is like, hey, what if we didn't do regular battle morphs that we're all really comfortable in and have like combos and stuff? What if we all went in as polar bears, which even I am not that familiar with? Well, that seems like a bad no. But what if, I mean, we could just do regular. No. So they all morph polar bear.
Also, right before this, Cassie, like in private thought speak while they're still birds, she's like, if you don't tell them about the old man dying, I will. So Rachel's like, yeah, okay, so an old man died, but like maybe he was a yerk. Polar bear time. Like, it's
She's just
really
completely
bad.
off the rails in this one. Completely off the rails.
Okay. So they attack their polar bear shit, but
This book is... The reason it's the worst book in the series is that not only is it a bad book in itself, but it just tarnishes everything. Certainly about Rachel, but even Jake is sort of thrown under the bus in this one as a complete incompetent. The other animals like Marco just surrendering leadership. Everything in this book is just ruined. Ruined. And that's why I just consider it basically non-canon at this point. It's bad fan fiction. That's what this book is. I don't know how it got through editing, honestly. I'm sure Catherine Applegate looks at this book and thinks, I wish it would have gone differently. I'm 99% sure she looks at this book and says that should not have gone through. Because everybody knows it's bad. The whole point of me listening to this right now is because I'm trying to find somebody who likes this book, and it's quite clear that the Fanimorphs don't, and rightfully so. They've got brain cells, so of course they know that this book is shit. I'm trying to find that one person dribbling in the corner and talking to trees who likes this book. I'm looking for that person. I can think of one podcast that dribbles in the corner and talks to trees. Maybe they... I'm not going to watch that one.
the Inspector, the Garbage-tron, and Visser 3 are there. So the Inspector, once again, fucks them up completely. Rachel does do like a, you guys go, I'll hold them off till you're gone. And meanwhile, they're like all losing stamina hard because they're fucking polar bears in a coastal town in the fucking United States. So they're like totally overheated. Mind you, I think this is also where Visser 3 morphs like
A goo pile. A very hot pile of goo.
flaps of stinking flesh piling on top of one another, like pudding dumped from a bowl. This is an actual description from the book.
It's so gross. I get the sense that he just kind of explodes in flesh.
Yeah. Anyways, the Inspector also helps him fuck them up. So they get away, but once they all get away, Rachel's like, they all realize that Cassie got left behind. And Rachel's like, oh, it was my fault. And like, oh, shit, I left her behind. And like, it's because of my choice as being the leader. So she quits.
She's like, I can't do it. Bye. You were right not to trust me.
Yeah, I was about to shiv you guys if you wouldn't let me be leader. I decided I don't want to be leader now that it's hard. Fucking what? Come on, Rachel.
Yeah,
And
she
also
is
everyone's
terrible
like, no,
in
you
this
have to be
book.
leader. Figure out how to get us out of this. Like,
She's basically a bad guy in this book. If you just took this book on face value and you didn't have any other context for Animorphs, you'd read this and think, this is a bad person. How was she portrayed as a good person? She's clearly evil. She clearly has, or not, maybe not evil, but just dribbling in a corner, talking to trees kind of insane. That's surely the impression you'd get. I might do an experiment. And just somebody who's never read Animorphs before, just give them book 37 and just get their opinion on it. Yeah, maybe that's something I'd do. Maybe I'll do that. I don't know who it would be. I don't know, but yeah, it might be worth experimenting.
They don't even think of their own ideas. They're like, this is on you. How do we get out of this?
Just turn around and look at Marco. He's already got a plan.
No, even Marco says, we don't have time to think of a plan for me. If I had more time, I could think of a good plan. But we need reckless and weird. We need you, Rachel.
Character trait, Rachel's impulsiveness.
We don't need intelligence.
Drink one finger.
We need violence. It's like, yeah, but you're all capable of that. Like, you're not all capable of coming up with a cool plan, but you're all capable of just, like, being stupidly violent. Right?
Yeah. Yeah, no, they've all done incredibly violent things at this point. It's not out of their wheelhouse.
We need your violence, Rachel.
Anyways, so they all go...
I mean, eventually I will do a video. The plan is to do a video. The title will be something along the lines of Fixing Books 36 to 40. So that series of books could be so much better. There are some cracking books in there. For example, book 38 is stunning. But still, that sequence of books had... I've talked about this before. There were plot points that were just so disjointed that if they were connected together, would have been so good. And that includes this book. There's something in this book that could have been taken and turned into something great if connected to other parts in different books around it. It just didn't happen. I think that's part of the problem of the ghost writers being there, because they probably didn't talk to each other very much and they didn't join these dots. I don't know where I was going with this. Let's carry on.
Go back. Oh, yeah, sorry. They have to go get Cassie. Obviously, Rachel has a little character building moment where it's like, okay, maybe I am the best person for this job, blah, blah, blah. Tobias is also like...
By the way, I don't think I've heard one single bit of positive commentary about this book yet from Fanimorphs, which is fine. It's correct, but it doesn't mean I'm not drinking any forfeits.
No, you were wrong. Like, I think it's that moment where it's like, Tobias, he's basically been quiet the whole time. That now he's like, nah.
He's just like, Nani Axe isn't looking at her since Cassie's gone. Like, no, everybody is just like, fuck, Rachel, you suck. Like, Cassie's captured. This sucks.
They come up with a plan to infiltrate the Yerk pool once again, but they can't think of a good entrance except for a new building that was put up not that long ago that Tobias is like, yeah, this is pretty much guaranteed to be a Yerk pool entrance, and one where you can like land a blade ship inside of it because it was built by Yerks. So like the building's essentially hollow and has like a big opening on top, like a door essentially on top that you can get planes into, or
bug
spoilers.
Fighters.
Yeah,
they talked about bug fighters.
So Rachel's idea is...
Nah, something wrong. I've found something wrong. Let's go back. I think it's before this.
Like the building's essentially hollow, and
it's before that.
Not that long ago that Tobias...
So Mikhail is wrong here.
Plan to infiltrate the Yerk pool once again, but they can't think of a good entrance.
They can't think of a good entrance. They never said that they couldn't think of a good entrance. They were actually I think Tobias gave a list of entrances that they knew were entrances to the Yerk pool. And they never said they were bad. I believe, from what I remember, Rachel just asked, are there any more? She never said, we can't do those. She just says, are there any more?
Except for a new building that was put up not that long ago that Tobias is like, yeah, this is pretty much guaranteed to be a Yerk pool.
Wrong. He never said it was pretty much guaranteed. He says it might be. I think it is. He never said pretty much guarantee. He did not say that. He did not. So you're actually you're actually giving the book too much credit here. You're giving the book too much credit by making it almost seem logical, because it wasn't. We know this entrance and this entrance. Tobias, are there any others? There might be. We'll go for that one. It was stupid. Utterly stupid. And Mikhail, you're giving it too much credit, and that counts as something wrong. 2 fingers drink.
Entrance, and one where you can like land a blade ship inside of it, because it was built by Yerks. So like the building's essentially hollow and has like a big opening on top. Like a door, essentially, on top that you can get.
I don't even think they had established that. I mean, I'd have to read the book again, and I don't want to freaking touch it. It's fucking poisonous. But I don't think he said that.
Planes into, or
Bug
spoilers.
fighters.
Yeah,
They talked about bug fighters.
thing. So Rachel's idea is steal an airplane. They go to an airport, which apparently is closer than this new building. Which is like, I don't know where your airports are, but fuck, they're not usually like right in the city.
Right there.
They said it would take half an hour to fly to the new building to save Cassie, and then half an hour to fly back. But, or rather, sorry, she said it would half an hour to fly to the building to see if, in Birdmorph, I mean, to see if it actually was an entrance, and then half an hour to come back for some reason. So she's like,
So
instead of
they're
that,
like,
let's
fly-
steal a fucking
steal a
private
plane.
jet. And she's like, oh, it belongs to Phil. And I believe
I
that's a
know.
reference to Phil from Phil's Hardware.
Oh, that's what that was. It was like
Seriously? I can't reach the book right now because I've got some washing over there that's drying. I'll need to look at that because that would be interesting. That would make an interesting analysis, of course.
oh, I saw the name on the plane, Phil Ludgater. I did not feel bad about stealing this plane, and I was like, okay, who is Phil Ludgater? Like, is this some famous man from the '90s that I don't know about?
Phil's Hardware, bro. It's a big empire.
It's Phil's Hardware. That makes sense.
So their plan is literally
I never noticed that, but I will look that up, and that's pretty funny if it's true.
dive bomb this building. But most of us will jump out in time to like flutter down as birds as this plane crashes into the Yerk pool. Never mind the fact that Cassie could be right there, crushed by this flaming airplane that you're crashing in. Anyways, they do.
Mikhail, they've had great luck so far. Nobody died.
Yeah, exactly. So they do that. Rachel is the one left behind. Axe flies the plane, because at first I was like, well, you can't fucking fly a plane. There's even a moment where like so they let Axe fly the plane, but there's a moment when they're on the runway and he's about to take off, and then a deer walks onto the runway.
And he dodges the deer, and then he's like, now we don't have enough space to like clear to get up. And it's like, well, fuck, this was pointless like tension that we didn't need.
So
Yep. pretty
who's
much.
running this airport?
How can a deer walk onto the runway? How can 4 kids steal a
Was this
plane with?
before or after 9/11? When was this published?
This was
It's
before,
before
for sure.
9/11.
I think the book series was done like before 9/11.
Oh, I think it ended on 9/10.
Ooh.
Seriously? Is that true?
But like this plane is ridiculous. Like the plane isn't even locked. They just open up the door and walk inside.
The thing is, I don't think they would be locked. Like, why would you lock a plane that was being maintained?
Is there a handle that you can just open up the plane door? I thought plane doors were a little bit more sophisticated than that.
No, I think there's just a handle. I mean, you can do it with the... It's the same way, like, there's a... You know, you can do a power lock on your car, but you could also just push the button. Anyways, they steal this plane, they fly...
I will, in my review, I criticised this heavily for the fact that they just managed to run in. And actually, I've started watching a channel called Mr. Bolin, who does like dark stories and mysteries, true stories, largely. And there was a story that he told about some guy who just went a bit crazy and ran to the airport naked. And he managed to just get to a plane and fuck around in the vicinity of it. So it's not beyond the realms of possibility that someone can just jump into an airport and run to a plane. So, okay, but I'm a bit more lenient on that point. You're still shit in every regard, and you're still sort of shit in that regard, but whatever.
it into the pool, of course.
Gotta be fair when fair is fair is fair. It's fair. I'm drunk.
Worse, they fight. They do their...
This stuff's all right. Fest beer.
Actually, it's only Rachel who... We're following Rachel, obviously, so the others jump out of the plane, and she's piloting it to the last second to, like, crash it in. Then she jumps out at the last second in her eagle morph.
Well, she lets her body get, like, bounced around the plane as it's crashing, and she just falls out the door and then morphs eagle. Which is, like, that's not how plane crashes work.
Have you ever been in a plane crash?
Yeah, Tessa, have you ever been in a plane crash?
Got me there. Got me there.
Okay, so blah, blah, blah. So basically it's Rachel. This gets a little, like, confusing, like what exactly is going on. But basically Rachel confronts or is near Cassie, who's still a polar bear for obvious reasons. She wouldn't demorph yet. And Cassie actually pulled off a pretty cool move, which is she's in, like, for some reason, medieval shackles. And then she demorphs just enough that her polar bear arms and legs can come out. But because she's, like, such an expert morpher, she can, like, not reveal, like, her face or the fact that she's a human. She just shrinks her legs so she can get out. And then she joins the fight with Rachel as much as she can. But the Inspector and Mr. 3 show up.
Oh, shit.
And Mr. 3 is essentially like, oh, Inspector... And he's, like, grinning and sneering.
Of course, this is always there. I think that's a Popperina joke. And I'm going to count that as a character trait. One finger, drink.
Would you like to kill the Andalite bandits? And the inspector's like, that would present no challenge to me at all. He's like, oh, so you wouldn't have a problem with it then? He's like...
As I found out in my recent bracket fights video that I did, Garrotrons are fucking badass, man. They're crazy. They could take anything out, according to this book. Again, it's another thing that this book fails on. It just brings this creature that is, apart from their hubris, they're fucking immense warriors. We never see him again.
I don't, but I don't see the point. How does he actually manage to goad him into fighting Rachel and Cassie?
I think he just calls him a pussy, like, more than once.
Basically.
I think he says, if you kill the Andalite bandits, I will stop being Visser and I'll leave Earth and I'll never be smarmy to you again. Like, he's basically triple dog dares him.
Yeah. I mean, he does say also, like, I'll sacrifice my position, which I'm not really sure the Inspector, like, is after him leaving his position. Yeah,
it's just this book being weird again.
So the Inspector's like, oh, well, okay. I didn't actually totally understand what the Inspector said because on the e-reader, it, like, when the Inspector talks, it's so fast that they decided for some reason it would be smart from a format point of view to write his sentences and his dialogue with no spaces in between words. And because of that, he sometimes says, like, 3 sentences in a row, but it's all one word, according to my e-reader.
And it just goes right off the screen.
Yeah, because it's not a real word. It can't, like intelligently know where to break it with a hyphen. So it just, it just runs off the page.
And for me, it went into the next page and made reading the dialogue there a little bit difficult, too.
Oh, my gosh.
So I had to flip.
This is why physical book gang is superior to digital book gang.
Like 4 pages to read his
I read all the books physically. Master race.
sentences and then flip back. Nothing the garbage Tron says matters anyway. Like, you can all pick it up from context clues, so it was not that big a deal.
Okay, I'll do this because it's not a problem. He's like, I'll do your non-challenge. So basically, the reason this exists is because of the old, like, trial by combat rules where you're surrounded by enemies, but if you win this one fight, you're a winner and you can get away somehow. Anyways, the Inspector fucks around. He can run on water because he runs across the Yerk pool. Oh, if I didn't mention it, they're in the Yerk pool area.
I'm tempted, right? I do a lot of fan fiction, and I know a lot of people out there do fan fiction, but there's the potential for the Garrotron to be a pretty awesome alien race. There's the potential. Just make it a bit less Sonic the Hedgehog, and they could be a pretty interesting alien race. It'd be difficult, but it's possible. And I have been thinking recently about an extended universe Animorphs thing where we explore things away from the humanity side of things. I mean, it's sort of done in things like the Elmis Chronicles and Hork-Bajir and Andalite Chronicles. But just explore some of those more obscure races and the things they go through during the whole Yeerk War and before and after. The Garatrons, maybe they deserve their time in the spotlight in a book that isn't this shit. Just have a think about that.
Under the City.
Like the big one, yeah.
The big one,
This is the scene where I realized that the Garbage-tron had a tail blade because it talks about him slashing at Cassie.
No, it's not a tail blade. He just whips it at her and like.
Oh, okay, that makes sense then. Because I didn't think he had a tail blade. Like.
Anyways,
yeah, Tessa.
He's beating the shit out of Cassie and hurting Rachel to a certain degree as well. Rachel's already kind of hurt as well from the crash. What happens after that?
Marco.
They kill him.
Yeah, yeah. Marco comes in morphed as the Viper. I think it's the King Cobra actually.
From Under David's Bed in book 21.
Axe drops him, and for
Spawn,
some reason,
the Cobra.
no one pays attention to Marco for the rest of this scene.
Yep.
Because he's just like in and out of the feet of the Hork-Bajir and like chilling out and like sneaking up on the scene, and no one's like, oh. They do say that the inspector looks at him and ignores him because it's like, oh, it seems pretty harmless. Like I can deal with that later. Obviously, not knowing that the Cobra is incredibly venomous. So then the birds like screech at the inspector and Axe as an Andalite. He's trying to hit the inspector with his blade and keeps missing. It's basically like normies versus Sonic the Hedgehog per usual. But and I don't think this is like actually how this works, but Marco's like sense of speed as a Cobra is so accurate, and his own strike is so fast that he bites the inspector on the leg, which obviously slows the inspector down significantly, and presumably he dies off camera, which of course is hilarious to Visser 3 because he got bit by a poisonous snake in book 8.
Snakes aren't poisonous. Something wrong. I think there's like a couple of poisonous snake species, but snakes are venomous. Venomous snakes are venomous. Mikhail, you're wrong. And because of that, I'm going to drink 2 fingers, and I hope you're happy.
Yep.
And all the audience are going to drink 2 fingers as well, especially you. The person you, yes. You. 4 fingers.
It's a kind of a good like foil of that book of just like a dramatic irony that the Visser knows this, but the inspector doesn't. Yeah. So rather than saying like, "Hey, I think that snake could like kill you," he's just like, "Oh fuck, look at that fucking snake! Oh shit."
Well, then also, like, the Hork-Bajir just surround Garbage-tron and Axe as they're fighting. And as Garbage-tron starts slowing down, he's like, what's happening to me? They don't go to help him. They just watch him die.
Well, like, but we don't see him die, so that's the thing. It's like every other filler book has one of these characters who gets, like, totally trashed or outright sort of killed so that like they can watch sort of the fan reaction and say like, okay, that character's back, okay, that character's not back.
Sort of what happened with what other characters did that happen to? Queen Soko was never like beaten up. What other characters are we referring to here? One-off characters. Joe Bob Finestra, maybe?
But, like, yeah, this was fucking brutal. They just, like, they straight up pretty much watch a man die. We watch a man die.
I mean, okay, let's finish this, because I have some thoughts on this. But, blah, 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 the Cobra kills, and the kids fly away, and the ensuing... It's not really panic, I guess, but I would assume that it looks better for Visser 3 if the Andalites get away, because it means the inspector did shit all. And at this point, the Council of 13 is used to him reporting that the Andalites got away, so it's not as much of a blow to his reputation. So, blah, 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 no one cares, normal wrap-up stuff. Rachel then goes and talks to the grandson of the old man that
yes,
dies.
grandson.
Like,
I think it was Tessa earlier said daughter. So that was a correct something wrong.
Like, I'm sorry. He's like, who are you and why are you sorry? She's like, yeah, no. Peace out. And she like runs away.
She runs away almost immediately.
and then Jake is like waiting for her outside this house.
That's the word. That's the creepiest part of the whole book.
Yeah.
Is that Jake is just there.
I don't know. Tobias maybe told him. I guess that's not big of a deal. But she's like, "How do you do it? How do you be a leader?" And he's like, there's a moment where he's like, he looks scared. And she's like, he looks like a scared kid. And then not anymore. And then he's
And
like,
the mask is back.
Yeah. No, actually, it says that the mask is dropped, which I thought was a weird way to say that because the whole idea is his persona is a mask, and that was like a insight into his actual character. But whatever.
Maybe it's like the mask dropped back onto his face? Question mark?
Deal with it. Also, this is why Brayden has been saying nobody dies. He's like, you did a good job because nobody died.
He's like,
Referring to the Animorphs, of course.
He says, how many Animorphs did you start with and how many did you end with? And like, that's all that matters. Don't worry about all the civilians.
Yeah, but little
stupid
did they know
fucking
Marco
book.
deputized that old man during the fight.
He was a deputy Marco.
Okay, I just wanted, since we're already at the end part of the plot, that was the end of the book, by the way. I think
that's a good point to say. Good summation. Good fun. Shit book. Interesting what the Fanimorphs team go on to talk about next.
just want to say, I think the fact that the inspector died fighting the Andalites is horrible. Because it was
Andalites? Excuse me? Do you mean, sir, the Animorphs? Yeah, I've made that mistake before. I've called them the Andalites. It's because they both start with A-N. But I'm going to count it as something wrong, but obviously not a... Just so I got an excuse to drink. So.
well, all it will do is lend credence to Visser 3's complaints that, like, they need more help on Earth to defeat...
It's just going to make their job so much harder.
It would have made way more sense for them to just, like, fake lose and run away or something.
Also, it was really brutal. Watching people die from fucking poison is brutal.
Yep.
It would have looked like he...
Venom. Brayden. It's called Venom. You silly sausage. And I'm going to drink 2 fingers for that. And so is everyone else. So you drink 3 fingers. You,
Mr. 3 was there in the TV studio and bit that old man at the same time. It's all connected. Okay, right off the top, can I say there are a lot of complaints in fandom spaces that I've heard that this book is a bad book for Rachel because of how it characterizes her. So I just want to ask, how'd y'all feel about crazy mean Rachel?
Let's see if there's any compliments about this book, because that would mean more drinky doos.
Who got super high on violence and kept talking about heroes and warriors and kings.
I didn't really engage with it. I felt like the narrating voice was just sort of all over the place. Like, it was just that, and then I felt like it was never resolved until, like, the end of the book, where she was just like, Jake, how do you do this? And he was like, don't worry about it.
Yeah, he kind of like pats her on the head.
Yeah, and it's just like, no, the solution is... don't worry about it.
Essentially. He's just like, I don't think about it. It's like, dog, we know from your
Maybe
books
you
that you
should.
think about it. And also, what does it... I don't know. He has a very warped idea of what a leader and, like, what respect looks like. I hated it.
Rachel is so obsessed with being leader.
But in a way that doesn't make any sense with her character.
Doesn't make
Like,
any sense. Just like, nobody tell me no. Like, she's like a spoiled 5-year-old on their birthday.
Before, she was like, I'll follow orders.
Oh, I'd say that's a character trait, impulsive, sort of.
As long as you guys recognize that I'm the heavy. Like, I'm the tank. Just use me that way. She's never once been like, Jake, your decisions are dumb. Here's my plan. It's like, no, that's not your job. That's Marco's job, and maybe Tobias's job, and maybe Axe's job. But your role is totally different. Just like Cassie's role is unique, but different than leadership, right?
Yeah.
It made no sense to me that was her conflict for the whole book, was like whether or not she should be leader. It's like, no, dog, you did not set that up for the last 35, 36 books.
Especially with her last book being book 32. Like, this just felt like me and Rachel got to write a book a little bit.
I disagree slightly with Mikhail there, because 27 sort of hinted at the idea that the Droid and Crack wanted Rachel to get rid of Jake and take his place, sort of. So, slight disagreement.
Like it felt so different from the Rachel that we have grown to know. Like she also felt like, I feel like at this point in the book series, the kids are like 14 or 15, and Rachel was acting like an 11-year-old maybe. Like the things that she was thinking about were so not the point. And like you've been at this war for a long time now. Why are you thinking like this?
Yeah, yeah. It's more than anything, like, it would make sense if that was her arc up to this point, but her arc up to this point was more like, I love violence, but I know that's wrong. But that didn't come up even one time. It was just like, nah, I love violence. Yeah. And no one's questioning the fact that I love violence, not even myself.
Well, there's the little bit in the TV show, or the TV station, where Tobias is like, okay, Rachel, I think they've had enough, let's go. And she's like, no, not yet. And that's when, shortly after that, is when she sees the tour guide come in, and the old man falls over.
Yeah, I mean...
I just remembered she heard someone yell, Grandpa. That little boy saw his grandfather die.
Yeah, but then when she saw him later, he's like, I'm over it.
He's like, I'm over it. Basically. Death is all around us, man.
Yeah.
Such a shit book.
Nails album.
It didn't bother me. I fucking loved it.
Yeah, actually at one point, well, not one point, at many points, Rachel is like, I'm the hero warrior, and refers to herself as the interim king of the group. And it's like, what?
I don't remember that.
It's because she had made a reference to Oedipus right before all of this started. She's sitting in her bed just like humming with excitement and thinking about Oedipus because they were studying Greek mythology in class. And the play of Oedipus Rex is where she first heard the word hubris for the first time, which is pride in something so good, but then you fall so hard it makes you want to claw your literal eyes out. And she's like, well, I think I got it. I have that thing. I'm that cool. I can be the king. Hopefully I won't want to claw my eyes out.
Does this count as character trait?
Like, what are you talking about?
There was also a chapter that was cut where she fucked her mom.
Also that, like, why are you making these... why are you...
Naughty talk, 2 fingers. That's basically the end of this drink. Blimey. What? Right, so, usually, that would be the end of the episode, because I've finished my drinks. But, because I'm enjoying Fanimorphs a lot, and if you are too, link in the description to check out more of their videos. I'm going to drink the Pineapple Milkshake IPA. It's only a small can, but by God, this is going to be awful, isn't it? Let's have a smell. Oh my God. Get in the jug. You foul, foul drink. Oh God, that smells awful. Right, we're going to drink this one, and that'll be the end of this.
You're putting an Oedipus Rex reference in a book geared towards 9 to 12-year-olds.
Also, hubris is all over the classics, the Greek classics. Like, why pick that one? There's so many other ones that would have worked great.
I think that teacher, her teacher is like now been fired. Like that was the one class she had with this English teacher, and they're like, "You taught the children Oedipus Rex. They're not ready for that."
God damn! I am just imagining whoever their English teacher is, probably just like constant, just like, okay, I'm gonna teach you kids about Oedipus Rex, the man who kills his dad and fucks his mom. I will be sitting for the entirety of this lecture.
Oh, come on, Brayden.
Oh my God, you know who it is? It's that cricket-eating motherfucker from the TV show.
I thought he taught science.
Oh,
yeah, he did. And then he went into the woods at the end of the episode.
Oh, what was his name? Oh, Jesus. The guy with the survival skills. I forget his name.
But he ran out of food in the woods and ran out of money, so he snuck back into civilization wearing a fake mustache. Got rehired and is teaching a different subject.
It's like that episode of Robot Chicken where they're like, now, Darth Vader thinks that he can choke us to death by making this gesture with his hand. He can't, actually. But if he found out, he would just kill us with his lightsaber. So, Every time he does that, pretend you choke to death, and then we'll get you out, put a fake beard on you, and you'll come back with a new name. Just like the teachers are actually onto it, but like teachers are fucked and they just want to watch the world burn. So they're just like, whatever, let's let this Yeerk invasion thing happen. And yeah.
Sounds spookily reminiscent of actual modern teachers.
Yeah, we'll just do our own thing.
There's actually a lot in this book beyond the overall arc. Like, we're gonna have to do a Vista 3 Morph Minute, we're gonna have to do an OTP alert, but I also have like weird little nitpicky stuff. Like at one point when they're hanging outside, I want to say it's the community center, they're like, oh, did they order McDonald's? Like after they morph polar bear and they can smell meat and stuff. Did they order McDonald's? And Cassie's like, I actually like the Filet-O-Fish. First of all, you didn't have to say that. Why did you say that? Second of all, of course Cassie likes the worst sandwich at McDonald's.
I'm hoping that's just because she was in polar bear morph at the time, that like the smell of fish made her polar bear morph go, yummy. And she was like, yeah, okay, I could fuck up a
You honestly think McDonald's uses real fish? How naive.
fillet of fish right now? Because who orders a fillet of fish from McDonald's?
I am slowly shaking my head so hard right now.
Also, I don't think polar bears eat that much fish. They eat like seals.
No, it's probably a lot more seals they get.
They also eat styrofoam, if you remember from that Live from the Gardens. Anyways, yeah, that was fucked up. There's like there's a part in the bookstore where Rachel is like, yeah, we're fucking up some books and biographies about some boy who was a star for about a minute, which is way too specific to not be about Jeremy Jason McCall.
Oh shit!
Jeremy
It
Jason.
totally was, and
Damn
she was
it, he
hurting
comes
on
back.
her crush with him being a bad dude. So, she just was like, "There's a line in the bookstore where Cassie is just like, this feels so wrong. Bookstores are like church," and I'm like, "Hell yeah!"
First of all,
Cringe.
bookstores are just like retail fronts. Like,
But you know, like you feel bad when you wreck a book. If you have to wreck a book for some reason, you feel bad about it.
Wow, it's funny you should say that, because the book we're talking about now got wrecked by me. Did I feel bad? Yes, actually I did. And when I wrecked it, in my review of the book, I did an addendum at the end of that video saying how I felt bad. So, yeah, you got a point. Even the worst books, like Book 37, The Weakness, even the worst, it still feels bad to rip them up. It still feels bad because, a book is somebody's art. And that's why the book 37 I ripped up, I've taped back together. And those are scars that I actually like on that book. It shows my anger towards it, but I still keep it. It's not, I haven't chucked it. I've kept it and I've taped it up. I've mended it. But those scars are shows of emotion from myself towards the book. I won't ever get rid of that book. That volume of 30... That copy of Book 37 will remain by my side till the day I die. Probably more than any other book on that bookshelf. And this is me being genuine now. Because I've tied my emotion to that book now. That is my emotional response to that book, and it means more to me for that reason, which is weird. That's that. So anybody who is upset by me ripping up that book, you should feel the opposite. The fact that I've kept it and I've mended it, and it's kept those scars, but I'm not going to get rid of it. So anybody, because there's one person who said that they didn't like my content because I ripped up that book. They said they stopped. I think they said they stopped watching me because I ripped up that book, or I was a bad person for ripping it up. Seriously? The fact that I've kept it and taped it back together, and I explained that as much in the video, that doesn't mean more. The fact that I ripped it up shows that I'm so tied to this series that I get angry at it. A book series that I don't like, I wouldn't get angry at. because I've got no emotional ties to it. So I don't get that. I don't get that. But that book 37, the one I've taped up, that's mine, and I'm not getting rid of it because those tears mean something to me. In a positive or negative way, that was my response to it, and that means something to me.
Cassie's my girl.
It's hard to wreck a book. It's hard to... No, Run DMC.
If you had to wreck a book, boom, boom. Okay, I feel like the kids should have pushed back on this very bad plan about, like, just going animals attack on their town. Like, there's too many bad variables with all of it.
It's more the fact that it's like... I think we'll talk about this a lot more next week in the Speaking Tree, but
Yeah.
they didn't have to do anything.
They didn't have to do anything.
Sometimes I feel like when somebody isn't narrating a book, they can get away with not doing a lot of things and that aren't in character. Like if this was any other character's book, this wouldn't be about following Rachel's orders. This would be about essentially like combating Rachel and like making sure she doesn't become the leader.
I mean, yeah.
I agree. That's an interesting way of looking at it. Actually, that is very interesting, and I agree because that would bring out the characters of these other, funnily enough, characters. Because all of them would have a reason to oppose her, but none of them does in this particular book.
It's a Rachel book. It has to be.
Is that a character?
Rachel is the leader. I mean, from a publisher's point of view.
Also, this book had a whole bunch of callbacks to other books in it, which is a lot more than other books normally do. Like, they did a callback to book 17. Apparently, Judge Forensic worked on the oatmeal case.
Judge Foreskin, yes.
Judge Foreskin. They references book 31 where Jake is gone. Tom is watching the house so that Jake doesn't have to do his whole freak out about, oh no, will I kill my dad or my brother again? Which is something that Rachel drops almost verbatim at the beginning of the book, which is really callous.
Yeah.
Yo, that's your uncle. Do we want to do this Visser 3 Morph Minute?
Hell yeah.
Visser 3 Morph Minute. Visser 3 Morph Minute. 3.
Well, that's what I love about Fanimorphs. Right, I've got to go to the lab. Be right back. Hi, Lila. Right, let's hear about this Visser 3 Morph Minute.
Brayden, do you want to put on your, Cthulhu voice? Not Cthulhu voice. Your Lovecraftian, narrator voice and describe this gross, stinky monster man?
Yes, of course. Allow me to,
Just don't be racist about it. Don't go too Lovecraftian.
The flesh folded away like that of a swarthy Italian.
What? Swarthy? What you gonna say that for?
I thought you were just going to read the copy.
I'm going to consider that naughty talk. 2 fingers, which means I take my first drink of this. What is it? Look, here we are. It's got a goat on it. A ram. Pineapple milkshake juicy tropical IPA. It sounds fucking revolting, and let's see how revolting it truly is. Oh my fucking god. There's a reason these are forfeit drinks. Christ. Oh my god. That's terrible.
Yeah. I just need to open it first.
You need to get that one out there. Just get it out of your system.
Gross, stinky monster man. A reading.
Oh, it's got an aftertaste and all. Jesus. Oh.
Braden.
I should have kept this one for the Raptor TV series to watch. By the way, Raptor and I want to do, once we finish the TV series, I think we enjoy doing these videos so much that we're going to do more. Raptor, if you're watching this, I was thinking that we do a full reread of the series. Again, I'll do it again. And we do basically what Fanimorphs have done, and basically every other podcast. Just read every book, but we'll find a way to make it original. Maybe we find a point of contention, or we I don't know. We'll think of something. I just enjoy making those videos here, so we'll do something.
From his proud and light body shot folds of gray skin, flaps of stinking flesh piling on top of one another, layer upon layer, like pudding dumped from a bowl. Skin like buckets of quicksand slapped onto a 6, 7, 8 foot monster. Eyes like tiny rotted raisins.
This is actually disturbing. You're doing a good job of making it disturbing.
Arms and legs like columns of poured mud 2 feet around. A stomach that roiled out like a wave and slapped onto the floor.
Jesus.
That kept on growing. Skin that oozed an outrageously foul stench. Think sewer, then corpse. What little air there was in that small...
And Honda Jazz Driver.
All over
Don't forget
the crowded
that.
room was
The most foulest stench of all.
already stale with the odors of sweat and blood, boiling with the heat of so many bodies. The visitors reeking morph made breathing almost impossible. And the
Cripes.
my body felt bloated with it. My skin stretched over layers of dense blubber. My fur coat felt like the heavy lead blankets the doctor drapes over you before pointing an X-ray machine at your chest.
It's getting a bit off the
never
rails
had
now.
Sex with my Jewish wife.
Oh, it's getting naughty talk again too. What the fuck has happened now?
What?
Mikhail comes. It's gone too far. It's gone too far. We need to stop.
Is that Lovecraft at the end there?
Yeah, that's Lovecraft. I felt I had to throw some stank on
Okay, yeah,
to
there was a lot of
stay
stank
to
in there
keep the
already.
character.
Oh my.
There was a lot
Oh.
of stank, though.
That's basically how Lovecraft came, by like saying things out loud that he wasn't just like saying things aloud.
Okay.
Has anyone ever? Right. Lovecraft, right? Oh, hold on now. Lovecraft. Who does he look like? Who does that... Hold on. Who does that look like to you? That's freaking Mark Zuckerberg. That is Mark Zuckerberg. Illuminati confirmed.
What was this monster's power besides being really stinky?
Being scary.
Big.
Like, it didn't shoot pylons from its hands. It didn't have a bunch of mouths. It didn't breathe fire.
Did it punch?
It had big arms. It, like, picked her up and threw her.
Basically a communist.
Yeah, so it was strong.
You're like a really big,
Actually, no, maybe not in that case.
angry, stinky gorilla? Like, that.
Just a mound of folds of flesh stinking up the place. Yeah, it sounds like a communist to me.
It?
Well, also being made of fluid is probably does wonders for, not being killed by like having your neck bit, because it's like, what neck? I'm a pile of gray sand. Gray, stinky sand.
I don't think he's actually
Communist. What more do you want?
made of liquid, though. I think it's just the flesh is there's so much of it that it's like
wouldn't be
pooling
the
around.
craziest thing that happened in this series.
Yeah. I thought he was like a...
In fact, no, worse. There's only one creature worse than a communist. A Honda Jazz driving communist. Isn't that right, Lila? Yeah, here we are. Oh, okay. You agree with me, don't you? Cookie. What are you after? You hungry? Do you want some treats? Here. Just a cookie. Treats. Here. Yeah, you like that, don't you? That's what you're after, isn't it? You're not after my love, you're after my food. Cookie.
Primer. Like the Pokemon?
Yeah, that's what I pictured. Was like that, but like gray flesh.
or muck, because come backwards. You know, when you come into your balls.
Naughty talk, Two Fingers. I have to drink this fucking pineapple milkshake shit again.
Yeah, like a straw.
Drink.
I find these like are getting funnier and funnier because like they have to keep using similes that are just like ones that kids could understand, but they're trying to not just be like the same thing over and over again.
Yeah.
Eyes like rotted raisins is maybe my favorite one.
Eyes like rotted
What does a rotten raisin look like? Because raisins look rotted as they are.
raisins.
What was the other one that I wanted?
The lead blanket that the doctor drapes over
Have you ever had those raisins that are like coated in milk chocolate? Oh, it's fucking divine.
you with the
Yes.
X-ray machine. That's like a lot. Just say it's heavy.
Yeah.
Just say you're wearing like 10 winter jackets or something. Would be so many less words with the same effect.
The word heavy is enough, like honestly. Like
Yeah.
there's not much to this morph minute, honestly. We move on to the more important segment, which is the OTP alert.
What's OT? I'll have to find out. I forget. Was this a thing when I? Because I think the Fanimorphs show evolved as it went on. I think the last episode I was on was 28. I've never heard this episode.
I'm starting to lose my Rachel Coe momentum because there's a moment in this one where it's like near the beginning where it happens again kind of later, but Marco is telling Rachel like, no, you're too stupid. You're the like grunt. Leave the leadership to other people.
By the way, I'm going to leave a like on this video, and you should too. I'm not going to get through this whole video. There's going to be a little bit left, I reckon. Because I've only got like 3 or 4 fingers left on this. Go check out the rest of Fanimorphs if you haven't already.
And I'm like, yeah, that's like way beyond teasing. That's like there's no way that you're like worried about someone's feelings when you say shit like that.
Yeah, it's like rude.
Yeah, whereas Tobias is like, for most of the book anyways, he's like, when she's like, remember when he comes to her at night, she's like, do you think it was a good choice that they picked me as the leader? And he just stares at her like...
And then he just changes the subject immediately.
But then later when she's like, oh man, it was my fault that Cassie's in there. It's like my fault that this old guy died. Tobias is like, yeah, no shit. It's like, damn, like, Tobias, fuck, that's harsh. It's way more harsh coming from Tobias than it would be from Marco.
Oh, yeah, because Tobias... Well, one thing, Rachel's also super caught up on, like, Tobias from book 33 and what he went through. Like, this is, again, like, oh, they keep doing callbacks to previous books, but she keeps being like, oh, man, Tobias went through what nobody should have gone through, and now we're back at the community center where he was a prisoner of war. Anyway, I'm over it. Let's all morph polar bears.
This is why, by the way, in my review, I said that this was just a Rachel revenge mission. That was the whole point of this, was Rachel wanted revenge on all sorts of different people.
I think all the relationships are fraying at this point, except for maybe Mark and Cass, or like Jake and Cassie. I almost called him Mark. You know, Mark.
Mark. Yeah, no, I thought this was a real, like, you could definitely see the relationship between Tobias and Rachel is, like, quite developed at this point, even if it is mostly off camera, to the point where, like, when he says that shit about her, it's like, ooh, stings. Like,
Ouch.
that's pretty brutal. Yeah.
She does have one line where she says she feels like she is, she doesn't say the word love, but she feels like she's loved him since before she knew him.
Yeah, that's a good line. I like that.
Which was really cute. Like, they have a bit, like, she talks about, like,
Cringe.
the compelling human boy I didn't know very well, Tobias.
Love is cringe. That's why I got married. Because it's so cringe.
So now he's forever a hawk. Like, so there is a bit of romance still there, but it's...
It's funny that you say that, because, like, one of the thoughts I had reading it was, like, you know what? The prose in this is not terrible. I think the morphing...
That's a compliment of the... That's like the first sort of not negative thing they've said about this book. Let's see if it continues.
thing is, like, the Visper 3 Morphman, it's like, yeah, you're kind of constrained by your audience there. But for the relationship stuff, it was like, this is, like, not bad. I didn't mind reading it at all.
There's...
That's a compliment. Everyone, drink to a compliment for book 37. It doesn't happen often. It doesn't happen often. The only time it's happened today was from me, and that's not supposed to happen. drink, everyone.
There's some pretty good stuff. It's just the subject matter is like just y'all could have had a weekend off without Jake being in town. You could have taken Axe to the movies again. Instead, you did this.
That's not necessarily the writer's fault, though, because that came from K.A. and Michael.
That's from Catherine and Michael
That's all for mention. Another finger. Drink.
themselves, which
Tippity
is
top.
K.A. Applegate themselves.
I have more notes on this, but we're running long, so maybe let's wrap it up.
Okay.
Right, at that point, I'm going to wrap it up. So there's only 5 minutes that is left. Fanimorphs is great. I was on... I know I was on episode 28. And there was one before that. I cannot remember which episode I was on before that. These were uploaded quite a long time ago. But yeah, I was definitely a guest on 2 of these Fanimorphs episodes. So yeah, 28, and then go find the other one. It will be there somewhere. So if you're interested in hearing more from me, or if you want me to react to me and have a new... I'm sure Medibollocks can think of a forfeit of me listening to me. If you want that, fucking tell me. Right, this drink is fucking horrible, so I'm going to finish it now.